Throughout his whole life, Steve the Crocodile Hunter, Irwin was responsible for managing some of the most dangerous animals in the world. A very unfortunate spill occurs and we come dangerously close to being killed by the... Furthermore, the morning of September 4th, 2006 was not an exception to this rule. An enormous bull stingray that was around 2.5 meters, 8 feet broad, had been discovered by him and his video crew. As a result of their fascination with the monster, they plunged into the water and started shooting. In a matter of seconds, however, the situation took a terrible turn. As Steve got closer to the ray, it immediately began to swim away after him. It was followed by his longtime friend and cinematographer, Lyons, who was also present with his camera. When he turned his attention back to Steve, he discovered that he was surrounded by a cloud of blood. Steve was stabbed in the chest by the stingray-like creature. The staff was aware that they needed to work quickly. The fact that Steve was seriously bleeding in the water indicated that sharks were on their way to attack him. While Irwin tried to remain alive dozens of meters away from the inflatable boat, he was unable to swim under any circumstances. The good news is that his team was able to rescue him before the sharks finally came. It wasn't until that point that they understood the seriousness of the problem. A large barb measuring 30 centimeters in length and 1 foot in length was embedded in Steve's chest, extremely close to his heart. During the time that they were racing to get him help, Justin made a valiant effort to keep him conscious. "Think of your kids, Steve," he yelled, attempting to get the famed crocodile hunter to wait for him to finish his sentence. The only thing that Steve did was mutter, "I'm dying," before passing out and never coming back to awareness. This was the one and only rule the Crocodile Hunter had for his crew. They were to never stop recording, regardless of how severely injured he was, even in the event that he passed away. On the other hand, what became of the videotape that faded? There was a leak of it, right? Is it possible that Steve was able to pull the barb from the stingray out of his chest? That, however, is a myth. When it came to the fatal accident, was he to blame? In the first scene, take 1. And now someone is leaving, Mark. In 1992, when Steve Irwin was only 30 years old, he started his show The Crocodile Hunter, which rocketed him to stardom all over the world. That was the culmination of his lifelong commitment to nature and its inhabitants. Steve spent his childhood in the company of some of Australia's most untamed animals. His mother and father were both deep-seated advocates for the protection of animals. Initially located in Queensland, they established the Beerwah Reptile Park, which would later evolve into the world-famous Australia Zoo. All throughout Steve's childhood, his father instructed him on how to properly care for a wide variety of animals, including those that were quite hazardous. He is said to have caught his first venomous brown snake, which is considered to be one of the deadliest snakes in the world, when he was only 6 years old. He accompanied his father on many of his missions, during which he relocated crocodiles in order to protect them away from people who may potentially damage them. On the other hand, to save them from being hunted. I told my father, there's one. At the tender age of 9, Steve made his first attempt to climb onto the back of a crocodile species. After a period of 20 years, that particular technique evolved into the signature motion that brought him fame. Please make Steve Irwin feel welcome. That's a good boy. You have to move quickly. Yeah, I understand it. That's right. This is the device that locks the door. On the other hand, his approach to animals, which was very near and personal, was not well received by everyone. In a statement, PETA accused Irwin of harassing animals. On multiple instances, the well-known animal rights organization known as PETA, which stands for People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, have called him out for the unnecessary harassment he has been doing against animals. Jean-Michel Cousteau, the son of the famed explorer Jacques Cousteau, is another wildlife enthusiast and communicator who has openly criticized Steve's techniques. He suggested that Steve was tampering with nature by upsetting animal habitats and behaviors. Furthermore, Rex Neindorf, the proprietor of the Alice Springs Reptile Center in Australia, was not a fan of his irresponsible behavior whatsoever. In the year 2003, he cautioned Steve against touching a lizard that was 2 meters in length without any protection. It was estimated that he had approximately 10 incisor marks on his arm. Everywhere you looked, there was blood. The performer, Steve, was the one who did that. He was a showman, Rex added. The criticism that Irwin received in 2004 was possibly the most serious one. At the time, he was holding his 4-month-old son Robert while feeding a gigantic crocodile that measured 4 meters, 13 feet in length. It is no longer the case that Steve Irwin is the most popular crocodile hunter in Australia. Indeed, the knives are available in every single country on the planet. Tonight, even his legion of devoted followers are wondering, has he finally crossed the line? Putting himself in danger is something that the crocodile hunter does on a regular basis. As he wrestled with alligators, he also played with snakes that were poisonous. However, is this an excessive amount? Take a look at this. He is using his child for his own enjoyment by placing him in close proximity to a dangerous animal. It's true that I would have charged him for it. Made by a number of family organizations that the occurrence was an instance of child abuse, the Department of Families in Queensland launched an investigation into the matter. After everything was said and done, the government decided not to prosecute charges, and Steve made a commitment that he would never again put his children in jeopardy. On the other hand, this did not prevent him from carrying out his exciting adventures. In the aftermath of his passing, a significant number of his detractors questioned if the tragic episode was the result of an accident, or whether Steve might have been responsible for something that aroused the stingray. Justin Lyons, the cameraman, stated that it was not Steve's fault, but rather a tragic act of nature that caused the accident. During the time that Steve and his colleagues were in Australia's Great Barrier Reef filming the documentary series Ocean's Deadliest, they were hoping to find tiger sharks, but were unsuccessful in their hunt. What exactly happened to the barb that was embedded in Steve's chest? In a short amount of time, rumors began to circulate that Irwin might have been able to survive if he had not ripped the barb out of his chest. Stingray barbs are equipped with sharp spines that face backwards in order to firmly embed themselves into skin. It would have been quite difficult for Steve to take it out, especially considering the fact that he was in a condition of near unconsciousness. The death of Australian crocodile hunter Steve Irwin occurred as he was participating in a diving excursion close to Port Douglas in Australia. Today, the world has suffered the loss of a great icon of wildlife. Large number of environmentalists, Steve was a source of inspiration for an entire generation of scientists, conservationists, and nature enthusiasts. This is despite the fact that Steve received a lot of criticism. For me, my father was a hero. Whenever I required his assistance, he was always there for me. He strove to alter the world in such a way that everyone would have the same passion for animals as he did. The entire life of Daddy was spent in this location. At this point, it is our turn to assist Daddy. Circulated on the internet is a fake. Even for a skilled and experienced professional like Steve, being in the presence of wild animals is a risky endeavor. Therefore, if you do not have any prior experience or formal training, it is best to observe nature in a respectful manner from a safe distance. Unfortunately for Timothy Treadwell, commonly known as the Grizzly Man, he learnt that lesson a little bit too late in the game. In a subsequent episode, we will investigate the terrifying final seconds that transpired before a grizzly bear devoured both him and his girlfriend, still alive.